welcome back to the channel. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about whether right now is a good time for collectors to get their grails, get their books that they've been chasing after. So a lot of the discussion that's been going on in a lot of collector corners is they're saying, is this a crash or a correction or whatever? Either way, however you want to define it, I think a lot of that stuff gets lost in the semantics, percentages, what defines a crash, what defines a correction, whatever. And that's how it kind of dilutes the actual conversation of what's actually important, I think. I think that's just kind of a way of people who were saying, no, it's not going to crash, for them to kind of save face. Like, no, it's just a correction. The fact is, these books have come down, and they have come down by a lot, okay? Especially Marvel stuff. DC was kind of insulated because they didn't get swept up in that hype. And they did go up a little bit, but some of that's just kind of the natural progression of a lot of the older stuff. It's just kind of rises naturally. But yeah, but the fact is, a lot of books have all come down. In my opinion, I think that yes, can be seen as a correction, but things can get a lot worse. If you look at the economy, you see a lot of people who are in white-collar jobs, bank sectors, a lot of tech companies have already laid off a lot of people. I think if you start seeing blue-collar workers start getting laid off, that's when things can get really bad. So hoping for the best. Hopefully we don't get to that spot in the economy. I guess the trick is, so I guess right now the trick is to try to kind of gauge where the bottom's going to be, or at least close to the bottom. I think there's a lot of sellers are kind of holding off to some of their stock because they're like, this is the bottom. Some people are holding on to dear life with those prices. But the fact is, I don't think those books are ever going to come back, at least not nowhere time soon, to where they were in 2021. In my opinion, right now, we're in a kind of a sweet spot of where everything's kind of died down. And one of the main driving factors of the comic book prices is been the MCU, and even to some degree the DC movies. DC movies have been completely scrapped. As of right now, there are no announcements for anything, and as much as people trashed on DC for the last few years, oh, DC don't collect, whatever, you know, people are still going to get excited once we start getting these castings, once we start seeing trailers. We as fans of this fans of DC and fans of this stuff, we want it to succeed. So we are not going to be able to help ourselves when we see the new Superman on camera, when we see the new Batman, when we see the Green Lanterns for the first time. So right now there's nothing, right? There's nothing driving it. And for MCU at one point, 2020, 2021 felt like a juggernaut. Like no one was going to take it down. And it was on a roll, and it felt like it could only keep going up. But right now we've seen MCU Phase 4 did not hit hard as it did with the other phases. It just didn't have that. It had a lot of scatterbrain projects were going in all multiple directions, nothing to pull them together, and then the projects individually kind of just felt like advertisement for future projects. So right now the MCU, I think the interest and anticipation for MCU is at all-time low. We have Quantumania coming up, but there's not a whole lot of hype for that. Quantumania may change that, so that's why I'm saying I think right now we're in kind of that sweet spot for books. And like I said on this channel, you know, when I do my rare spec videos, I say, hey, you know, I don't like to spec out books I don't have, because, you know, I like putting my money where my mouth is, right? I like practice what I preach. And so this is a book that I purchased this month. And this is a book that I have been searching for a couple of years now. But MCU has been so hot Marvel stuff has been so hot. I haven't really touched it. I've touched some of the minor keys that kind of slipped through the cracks. But other than that, this is something that I've been really wanting for a long time. I picked it up at a 2.5, pretty decent grade. So we're going to be looking at GPA analysis, and I'm going to be telling you guys why I think that this was a great time to pick this one up in particular. So let's go look at the numbers. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, that I'm a big numbers nerd. I'm not going to wow you with like percentages and all that stuff, because I'm actually kind of dumb in real life. But I'm kind of smart enough to see like some patterns here. So if you want to look at some of the sales for this stuff, you can kind of see the highs and the lows. Right now, there's only been 2 sales for this year. I think that's inaccurate. I don't think they have mine on there, my purchase on there. But you have 2,800 is the high, the low is 2,500. Okay. Then from last year, so this book is down from last year's high, which is the 4,000 high, and then you got the low for 2,100. All right, so the 2,100 is still significantly lower than the high from last year, but I think that's because last year started off so high and then it ended up so low. And then 2021 was just absolutely crazy. 4,700 for the high, and then 2,300 for the low. All right, so that's the year that everything went crazy. That year is, to me, an anomaly. Okay, and but let's look at the years before that, because that's where the truth lies, right? You want to look at the low numbers, and as you can see, the book goes up. Like every year, you can see the numbers. Every year, the book goes up. Even the floor goes up a little bit. You might see it take a little step back, but usually the highs you can see the highs like in 2015 to 2016 it went up, and then from 16 to 17 it went back down. But you can see that the floor never went back down on the highs, right? It went from 500 to 574 and then went up to 675. It didn't go back underneath 500. So I think for these numbers, the ones you really want to pay attention to are the lows, because the lows are, I'm going to say, if I was to take an educated guess, these are like veteran buyers. These are collectors that have been doing this for a long time and have kind of been bidding their time, looking for the right moment. I think if you look at the highs, these are FOMO buyers, man. I think these are the people who are like intoxicated and just kind of overwhelmed with FOMO. So I would pay attention, a little bit more attention to the lows, because I think the lows tell you a lot, will let you in a lot of insight. So as you can see, so let's go back up and look at 2020. This book was sitting at 807. There's a huge gap there in 2020. You can see a huge spike that is sold for 26 copies of this particular. Again, this data only applies to the 2.5 guys. Like, if you look at some other books, you can, but I imagine if you look at other grades, you would see similar numbers as well. But you can see here that for 2020, the low went from 800 to 2,300, right? So the high went down for 2022, and then it went down for 2023. But the low has actually it went down a little bit for 21, 25, which was expected from that huge burst. But so far this year, it has not dipped below that. And I think that this book was, if that's what I say for you new guys, just getting into the hobby. A lot of the times, the reputation of a book or what people say about a book, it does matter, because that plays into speculation. That's the attitude that people, and I think you should pay attention to that. Not necessarily believe it, but kind of find the angle on that. So the discussion around this book was that it was severely undervalued. It was Stan Lee, 1960 Silver Age, first appearance of Daredevil, and it was just severely underrated. Some of the best stories in comics. As a matter of fact, I think Daredevil's the best written Marvel comic book hero. I don't think there's another hero with as many iconic runs. So the reputation for this book was that it was severely underrated. Even during the show, it didn't even heat up the way it was supposed to, right? Because it was a Netflix show. It wasn't a show in the MCU. So that was kind of the deal with this book, that it was seen as a book that hasn't gotten its due. So when the book finally went up, the attitude wasn't like, oh, this book is overpriced. The attitude was, oh, this book is finally getting the recognition. It's finally getting the due that it deserves. So I think that that's kind of important as well to listen to as well. Not necessarily believe it and consume it, but observe it and see how it can work to your advantage. So do I think right now is a good time to pick up your grails? Yes. And I think for you, this is advice for the new guys that are just coming up in trying to get into this hobby. A lot of the veteran collectors are probably already out here making moves, trying to upgrade the books that they already have. That's another thing too. I think if you already have your grail and you're looking to upgrade, maybe right now is the time to kind of look into it. For these books, every situation is different. The story around all these different books is different. So kind of take a look into your grail and kind of see like, hey, is right now the time to strike? And in my opinion, yes, because right now you have a lot more leverage going into these sales than you'd have in any time within the last, I would say, even 3 or 4 years. I would also say you can bid aggressively. I would say you can bid a little bit more aggressively, but I would also say you can also negotiate a lot more aggressively. You can go out there and lowball. Like, don't be afraid to lowball sellers right now. I know there's people that probably have different attitudes about that and saying that's disrespectful or whatever. But let me tell you what, man, don't feel bad for lowballing people that are trying to sell something, because I guarantee you they didn't feel bad when, you know, they were marking books up for 300%, 400%, you know, a couple of years ago. So it's just business. It's nothing personal. All right. You're trying to get the best price, and you want to put some pressure on them. You want to go ahead and for it. And right now the ball is in your court. So you have time. You have time to, and you have the leverage to just walk away and go on to the next one. So in my opinion, it is the best time to pick up a Grail book. As a matter of fact, I did pick up another one as well this year as well. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, I think I might do a little bit of series of these where I'm just giving that advice for the new guys who are trying to get into collecting, who are trying to get a nice collection going on of some good quality books and that are going to still be worth something when they're like 5 years deep into the game, as you know, not necessarily for like investment or speculation or trying to get rich and famous off these books. This is more like geared towards the new guys who really want to land some of their favorite heroes' first appearances. So yeah, man, you guys let me know down in the comments what you guys think about right now, where the situation is with these books right now. So yeah, man, it's a pleasure talking to you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.